Hey, I got a verse for you today to start off the program. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 says this: to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Boy, is that verse more true today than ever before. We're living in perilous times, aren't we? We've just lived through a very tumultuous, shocking year, 2020. You got to admit it. 2020, never been enough. And some of you are thinking, I hope there's never a year like that again. But I got news for you. We are entering another troublesome time. We're entering the year, in fact, we're in the year 2021. We're going to do a part 2 of our program we did last week concerning what we expect in the year 2021. We got a theme for this year. I hate to say it. And the theme for this program and last week's program is this: more to come in 2021. And I think that more to come is more bad stuff coming. And we want you to be prepared for it. And so I've got Dr. Hiltebittle back with me in the studio. And we didn't get quite halfway through our discussion last week, so we're going to pick up where we left off with Dr. Hiltebittle, and we're going to talk about what we see coming in the year 2021. Don't miss it. All right, this is Brother Goodwin here, Dr. Charles Hiltebittle with me here in the studio. We want to welcome you once again to the program, and we would like to say right off the bat here how much we appreciate those of you who support our ministry financially. Amen. In any way. Some of you use $25 a month. Some of you use more than that. Every now and then we get a big one, Doc, and we're thankful for all of them.
Amen.
Don't like to talk about money all the time, but we are a viewer-supported ministry. Absolutely. And the only way the program stays on the air is the financial gifts of God's people. And I'm
blown away. Yes.
At the gifts. I mean, I'll go out to the mailbox sometimes, Doc, and I'll open an envelope, and I just can't believe it. Yeah. I mean, the people are that generous. And we got more coming. We're going to be going on the radio. We'll let you know about that as soon as we got details. We're going to take the show to the radio. We're going to stay on TV here as long as God's people provide. And we're also going to be taking the show on the road to the radio. We got 7 or 8 radio stations across the country, and we may add to them as we go. But we want to see how that goes. We want to see if we got a radio audience out there that would like to hear some old-fashioned prophecy.
Amen.
All right. Well, Doc, let's jump into this. And we left off last week. We talked about China. We talked about some super soldiers that they're working on. We talked about the Abrahamic Accord leading into the Ezekiel 38 thing. We didn't go into great detail, but you said that you see that coming. The decline of our culture and our moral values. Unbelievable. We talked about that. We'll just move on, because if I start talking about that again, we'll spend another 5-6 minutes on it. So let's go to the next thing here on the list. Basically, I asked Dr. Hiltebittle to come up with a list of what he sees coming this year. I did the same. We kind of put them together here. I've got a few that I'm interjecting as we go here, but let's go back to you again. You talked about false religions. You see an increase in false religions, in many blending with paganism and demonism. And you even mentioned the Southern Baptists, something about them in here. Talk about this a little bit.
Well, I'm convinced that we're going to continue to see the Laodicean church age develop into more and more apostasy. With that will be the blending between supposed Christianity, supposed Bible thoughts and teachings, with paganism of the world. More of what does the world want, Christianity to give them so that we can make changes to reach the world. Hey, we don't need any changes. We just need to stay with the book and let the world, because we need to give the world what they need, not what they want. But I'm watching on the stage of religion, we're watching a lot of things become more and more secular and more pagan. Almost the majority, if you've not seen it, you need to look at some of the documentaries that's been put out by a friend of mine. His name is Spencer Smith. Has a huge following on his YouTube channel.
We'll be bringing him in here.
Yes, one of these days we've got to. But I'm telling you, the majority of the music and the performances, quote unquote, and quote unquote church services are pure paganism. I was speaking with my chiropractor the other day, and he said, "Preacher, you mentioned something, explain it to me." And I told him this. I said, what you're seeing in modern music is taking the things of God as attributes of God instead of the character traits of God. In other words, it's all about the wind. It's all about the wings. It's all about the water. It's all about the rocks. It's all about the things of creation. And what they have done I don't think they understand it, but what they've done, Dan, is they've done what Romans chapter number 1 said they would do. They are now worshiping the creation rather than the Creator.
Right, exactly right.
And I'm convinced you're going to continue to see this. There are a lot of the people involved in some of these supposed ministries that their morals are stained at best. Many of them are found to be all sorts of immoral activities. And you can't live that way without blending your supposed Christianity with the paganism worldliness.
Now, you mentioned your chiropractor. Does he watch the show?
I don't know if he does or not.
I just wanted to warn you, be careful what you talk about with your chiropractor.
He can hurt you. He's a great Christian man.
He can be cranking on your neck while you're telling him something. Whoops. And
he's a good man.
No, I know he's a good guy. Yeah. You've told me about him in the past. You mentioned something in the car today about the government's religion. Tell the audience about that.
The government's religion. I'm convinced that the government-sponsored religion of our world today is science and technology.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find that in Daniel chapter number 11. I believe it's verses 39 through 41, somewhere there. It talks about 3 end-time gods that will aid the Antichrist in his pursuit of governmental world control. And you're seeing it right now. The politician will get on and says, science says. You got to put your mask on. Science says, and they go down the list. Science says, so we got to close down the businesses.
And the science said we had to close down our churches.
Yeah, and science said close down the churches. The list goes on.
Science
has never said anything.
It sounds like we have a little God and they've got a big God.
That's what it's. And in all reality, what has developed is a government-sponsored religion called science. And science, based on evolution, is just the opposite of the book. And that's exactly where we're living.
Well, that leads us right into the next thing on your list here. You see more oppression of Christianity and churches coming this year.
It's coming. If you think 2020, by the persecution and, it required the Supreme Court to finally stand up and say, hey, that's unconstitutional, after churches had paid fines, and the list is endless. I'm telling you, it's going to continue. They now are supposedly finding another second or maybe even third variation of the supposed virus, and they're going to continue to close. I don't care if they got a vaccination. They intend to bring the world into collapse so that it can be melted into a one world order. And so to do that, you got to quieten voices like we're using right now.
Well, that leads into something that I had written down here. Of course, I talked about the cashless society, everything going digital, and of course the COVID-19 being a part of the reasoning behind that. And we talked about going through the drive-thru and everybody touches that credit card. For everyone in line, the same lady with the same glove. It's ridiculous. But all this being used as a catalyst
Yes.
to push us towards something that you and
That's
I
right.
see coming in the end time.
Yes,
That's
sir.
already has the tentacles there now, and it's already happening.
This is stage setting.
And you mentioned something about the vaccine. I see mandatory vaccines coming this year. Now, they may not force us, but what they'll do is they'll take away your liberty.
That's right.
If you don't, in other words,
Limited.
It's already happened on some of the overseas air flights.
Yes, it is.
You're already being required to prove something, either that you've tested.
You've got to have at least 3 days ahead of time
negative
have a test.
But that will all change. Eventually, they're going to, now that there's vaccines out there, and there's at least 2 or 3 of them out there now that have really not been much testing, then they're not going to know for a few years if we're still here that long.
That's right.
Then a few years from now, there'll be these things come out. If you took the vaccine and you've suffered this, or this, call this number. There's a class action lawsuit.
But our government's already passed a rule and a law, so they can't even be exempt.
They probably can't be sued. So you're at the mercy. But they're gonna find some time.
You're exactly
from now.
right, though. The world is going to come to a place where you have to prove a vaccination in order to fly
It'll
or go
start
into the
probably
store.
with overseas. Then it'll start with all flights.
Yep.
And then eventually you won't get in the door at Walmart without proof of a vaccine. Now, what the proof is, I don't know. Piece of paper, some kind of a scan. The scan would be convenient, huh? Then you don't have to just walk right through the scanner.
Well, you probably figured out, like a lot of our listeners have started to figure out, whatever is convenient for us is actually what the government wanted to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, the young people, to them, put something in me that'll scan when I walk through the door.
Make
there.
it easy.
Yeah, and there's nothing sinful about getting a chip. I know I'll make somebody mad out there. Oh, that's sinful. That's wicked. That's the mark of the beast. No, it's not.
No,
it may
it
lead
isn't.
to it. And I personally don't think it's a good idea to get a chip.
No, I'm not going to get
I don't,
one.
especially if the government's on the other end of it. I don't want the government to know my whole life. Look, the founders were picky about this stuff.
Yes, they were.
The founding fathers, they didn't want they didn't want soldiers to be able to come in their house. They were for illegal search and seizure.
Yes, sir.
They were for privacy and liberty.
Yes.
They were for keeping chains upon the ankles of the government. Not us.
We've just about turned it all the way back around again.
We're automatically in fear of the government, and that's a problem.
And it's a shame. We should not have to be, but we are.
My congressman ought to be the one in fear, not me.
But it's not that way.
But
His job's locked in as long as he can keep getting elected.
Yep. So I see this vaccine as being a prerequisite to this whole thing. People are going to want to take it. They're going to. I never understood with all vaccines. I never understood why people would be mad at me for not getting it. If you've got the vaccine, why are you concerned about me getting it?
If you're already protected, why worry about me?
See, it's really not about that, is it?
No, it isn't.
It's never been about that.
Never been. I'm beginning to understand why the Bible talks about the restraint there in 2 Thessalonians chapter number 2, that restrainer. I'm beginning to understand what that really means. Because you and I and folks who are walking with the Lord have our eyes open to truth. We're basically the restrainer or the resistance to these kind of things. Once that resistance is removed, there'll be no restraint to it.
All right, moving right along here. You talked about more oppression for Christianity in churches.
Yes, sir. I'm convinced it's going to happen.
And you said this will continue to reveal real professing Christians from just a professing crowd.
Yeah. I'm convinced that it's going to demonstrate, because it's going to become, am I going to go to church and get turned in by my friends because I went down to that super spreading center? Well, they don't wear their mask down there. It's going to reveal true Christians and true Christian faith versus those that have been just going along and enjoying the ride. I believe those are folks that are professors and not possessors.
Well, I might have said it last week, but I see a virtual society coming.
Oh,
We've been in it for 8 or 9 or 10
Yes.
months now.
I was with a church last week, and they said we're not putting this on live Facebook Live anymore. Said if people can't come to church, shame on them, because a lot of our churches got started putting in all this live streaming. Most of them haven't gotten back more than 60 to 70% of their crowd. They're still sitting at home with their feet up on the couch in front of them and drinking their coffee and going to church.
Yeah.
That's not coming together in the name of the Lord. He said even so much the more as you see the day of approaching, we ought to gather ourselves
But
together.
everything is becoming virtual.
Yes.
The Zoom company, they went up hundreds of percentage points, the stock market.
Yeah.
The Zoom, go try to buy a laptop. It's hard to buy a laptop because everyone's buying laptops.
So they can
Because
Zoom.
They're doing their work on there. They're doing their school on
Yes,
there.
sir.
They're doing church on there. Everything now can be done in the privacy of your home. Social gatherings are possibly a thing of the past.
In a lot of ways, it will be. Yes.
We've been programmed. We've been pushed into this, and now why change now?
Yep.
And so I see that coming.
I still take that back to the fact that technology and science is one of the end time gods that's going to aid the Antichrist in governing the world. And that's what technology has provided for us.
Now you have here, you see more division coming with an increase in radical factions. I think you mean
Yes.
Antifa and different
Yes.
things, but you want to say a little bit about that?
It's irrelevant as to who is in charge as a president. This is something that is bigger than just who's in an Oval Office. This is a spirit of Antichrist, and we're going to continue to see an increase of rebellion and rebellion. The more you have lawless leadership, the more lawless your society will be. How can we survive in a system where there's a two-tier justice system? Mm-hmm. Those lawless in leadership can get by with it. And so all they're doing is instigating more and more, and you're going to see a continued rise of lawlessness in our streets.
You wrote here, lawless leaders leading a lawless people.
That's where we are. Yes.
Yeah. Well, folks, you're watching Crossing the Spotlight, and we want to thank you for watching. We got another half the show to go here, but I wanted to just take a moment to thank everybody for watching. Thank everybody that gives and financially helps us. Doc, why don't you take just a moment and tell the folks how to be prepared for the coming year and the junk that's coming.
Number one, be born again. If you're not saved, we want you to, if you don't understand it, call us. We'll be glad to help you. The Bible is clear that whosoever will call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. And you can change your destiny from hell to heaven by being born again. Secondly, those of us that are Christians, we need to develop a genuine daily walk with the Lord. I'm not talking about just skim reading a verse or two. I'm talking about you need to read your Bible with intent and on purpose. And you need to develop a daily walk, because we're getting ready to face more opposition to your faith, and you need more strength that comes through the grace of God, and all of that's coming from the Word of God. And I think, like Dan has pointed out, I think we need to, in physical ways, I think we need to be prepared. You never know when all of the technologies that control all of our facets of life is turned off. And you need to be able to feed your family, and you need to have a physical supply ready for your family.
Man, and I do. I think bad stuff's coming. I think we're becoming and have become a virtual society.
Yes, we have.
I mean, you got people getting their groceries. They make the phone call, or they do it on their phone.
Drive by to pick
They
it
drive
up.
by. There's a number 1 through 10. You park in your number. They bring your groceries out. You pop your trunk. They put them in. You don't even have to physically touch the person.
No contact and social contact.
You go back home. You wait till the right time, and you watch your virtual church service.
Yep.
You do FaceTime with your children or your neighbors across the street or whatever, and you talk to people that way. You fellowship that way, and the whole society has this COVID thing has brought this virtual society.
It has.
I don't see it going away.
I'm convinced it will not go away. Everybody wants a return to what they call normal before 2020 began. I think the new normal is a continual deterioration as we're heading down the road to a one world order. One way or the other, we're going to get there. Whether it's before or after the rapture, I don't know.
This seems to be pushing us towards bankruptcy, financial ruin of the nations of the world, not just America.
No, it's the entire world.
Which will lead to the reset. We did a show on the global. We did 2 shows on the global reset. I mean, they've had meetings.
They may not get it right now, but I can promise you, I'm convinced from what the Bible tells me, they're going to end up finally getting it. It may not be till the beginning of the tribulation,
when the world goes
but
into
it's going to happen.
The Great Depression of the world. I mean,
it's going to happen.
People will be begging, "Where do I sign?"
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, let's hit a few more of these in the time we have left, Doc. Let's see. You talk about you see a rise of pestilences and climate-related events.
Well,
coming.
The more man tampers with the DNA of the grain, and that's what we have today. Almost all of the food that is produced in the fields of our world are genetically manipulated or organic
like
GMOs. Monsanto's just one of them, but they're the biggest. But Bayer is right there with them. They're all in the same category. And the more we mess with that, the more we mess with one of the things with Zika virus, we decided we'd make a genetically altered mosquito that we could send into the jungles. This mosquito would be able to eliminate malaria. What did it produce? It produced another offspring of things. The more we manipulate the genetic code of God's basic creation, you're going to see more pestilences. You're going to see more problems with climate itself. And, of course, that's what the world is all about today. I call it green goddess worship. They're worshiping the greening of the earth, they call it. Well, they think it's going to brown. They don't even understand the science of how carbon works in plants. But the more carbon there is, the greener the earth actually gets rather than turning brown. Just the opposite. But that's what the Bible in Romans chapter 1 tells us, that by the end of the time, what was good is now evil, and what was evil is now good, and it's all being legislated by our government.
Now, I think you already hit this, but it's here. The push for the one world order.
Oh.
You want to take a minute
I think all of these things is a part of the overall pushing the world. Because, see, COVID thing's not just in America. This is a worldwide thing. Yeah. You had a document you put out on who shut down the world a few months ago. And I'm telling you, the World Health Organization. But all of it is pushing the entire world toward a necessity of a one world order.
And a virus that's 99.4% survival rate.
Less than 1% death rate, mortality rate. And they're making a virus that's not as foolproof as the survival of the...
And the entire media is a co-partner in the deception of this thing.
And the descent to it of true science has been shut off. The media has controlled it all. They control the narrative. And this is where we are. And you're not going to go back, and you're not going to turn the pages back. The pages are moving forward into the end time scenario, and they're moving forward faster than they were last year.
Now, I wrote on my paper here, on my list, this year is going to bring even more dependence of the citizens on government than ever before.
Yes.
Look at these bailouts, or what are they calling them things? The stimulus packages and
stimulate other countries more than us. But anyway,
But I know they say, well, they're just giving us our tax dollars back. That's not really accurate, because they already spent our tax dollars.
And they're just printing these out of thin air.
Borrowing money to give us money.
Out of the printing machine.
Yeah. And we got to pay that back with interest, or our grandkids or great-grandkids, or maybe someone from another country that takes over our country one day. But I see, not only financially, but I see, because there's strings attached. Whenever the government hands you
Always.
something. There's always something attached to that. If nothing else, it's just that, we're here to take care of you. You don't have to worry. We've got this.
Oh, I know.
And you become dependent on them and not your own skill, your own hands, your job, it's
Socialism.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We can't fail. The government will come in and bail. Now, the government's caused most of this problem.
That's right.
But we've allowed it to happen. We've sat back and allowed the government to shut us down. Now,
And
there's a few rising up here and there.
And they continue to elect the same officials over and over that's brought them into the mess they are.
And so I see an even furtherance of men and women of our country becoming more dependent on the help of government to take care of us and to protect us and give us security instead of God and our strength and our labor.
They feel hopeless and helpless. And so they turn to government. Yes.
Yeah. So.
But we need to get our help. Our help comes from above.
Yeah.
And that's why, as God's people, we've got to stay in the book. We're getting ready to face more difficult times and more opposition. We need to know, what does the Bible say, and how does this help me in my daily time right now?
Yep. Okay. We may have already hit this a little bit, but you said that you also talked about the vaccine. You said the roadway for the mark of the beast will narrow through the vaccination mandates that will be falling out of the world's governments. You talk about passports for verification of the vaccine. You think those will become mandatory for travel and even most facets of life. You want to?
It's already becoming there. I mean, I understand in New York City the other day, they were sending police officers tracking down everybody that had come in from London on a flight because of this supposed new strain of this. You can't get on a plane and fly overseas without having at least, I believe it's 96 hours ahead of time, a positive or a negative COVID test. We're going to see all of this mushroom as it grows on. I mean.
Well, we got one more on your list. I think we hit it, but I'm going to ask you it anyway. But first, here's a shocking one that I wrote down. I see pedophilia possibly becoming legal and normal
We
this
touched
year.
on that. We touched on that, I think, last time.
Okay, maybe we did.
But I'm telling you, this is exactly what's happening. Because there's a lot in.
Well, I think we talked about the 3 men getting married.
I believe pedophilia is going to help. Taking the law down is going to help a lot of people that's already.
Yeah, the people on Epstein's flight list.
Yeah, they want to be able to get themselves out from under.
They got to pass this law to save themselves.
Yeah. Oh my!
And we had the supercomputer a trillion times faster. I think we
talked
about that.
Yeah.
I think we did it, Don.
We did pretty well.
I don't know how, but we did it.
Amen.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, folks. Another half hour has gone by. We're glad that you're with us. Glad that you watched, and we'll see you next time. But until then, keep your eyes on the sky.